I think we're ready to go. I'm just going to welcome everyone here today. My name is Jen Buchanan, and I'm the Director of Engagement here at Future Anything. I would like to start by acknowledging I'm actually joining you here from the lands of the Wurundjeri people here in Naarm, also known as Melbourne, and would like to acknowledge that today across Australia we're joining together in this virtual space from many different lands on which we work, live, play and create. With that being said, if you'd like, you're more than welcome to pop in the chat which lands you are joining us from. And I would like to pay my respects to any to elders past, present and emerging, and to any First Nations people joining us today. For our audience, our virtual audience here, a very warm welcome to all of you to today's Future Anything live learning session. Each month we have this amazing opportunity to bring together a community of movers and shakers and thinkers and doers from the world of entrepreneurship and education and beyond. And we get to chat on a wide range of topics that hopefully leave us with more questions than answers. So we're here today, we'll be here for the next 45 minutes, and this session is being recorded. So when you pop back into the staff room tomorrow and you hear someone saying, oh no, I missed that Future Anything live learning session, I really wanted to go to that, you can turn around and go, not a problem. All their sessions are recorded and available on their website. But today's session, we are continuing on with our theme around doing schools differently. And the topic today is about empowering every student's journey. As many of us know, and possibly many of us have experienced, traditional education systems can sometimes overlook those really unique strengths and interests and challenges of individual students. And there's a growing number of schools that have recognised the need for a far more personalised approach to learning, and an approach to education that really does nurture students' passions and empowers them to really be able to shape their own journey. I'm absolutely delighted today to welcome 3 guests to the room who are working in schools that really do ask us to consider how schooling can be far more human-centred, a place which is rich in fulfillment, joy and belonging for every person. So my first person I'm going to introduce is Kim Brady. Kim is the leader of teaching and learning at Novo Education Space in Wollongong. My second guest for today is Alex Broon, who's joining us from South Australia and is the Metaversity Project Lead at Youth Inc. And Sally Lassett, who is with me here in Melbourne, Principal of Hester Hornbrook Academy. Now, today we're going to just have a bit of a casual conversation, and I am going to kickstart our conversation with me actually stopping to talk and handing over to Kim with our very first question to just get us started. Kim, if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey in education, that would be amazing.
Sure, Jen. Afternoon, everyone. My name's Kim Brady. As Jen said, I'm leader of teaching and learning at Novo Education Space. I've been with Novo now for about 14 or 15 months, I think. And recently, prior to that, was down in South Australia doing some work just up the road from where Alex is with Indie School. So I think my journey to alternative ed started as a leader in mainstream, where I was getting frustrated that the scale of the work was inhibiting my ability to work deeply with the needs of every young person, and particularly the kids at the margins. And I felt we were often losing the young people that we were called to work with most deeply. And had a great mentor at the last mainstream school I worked in who suggested a couple of local alternative ed schools that I could go and visit as part of my PD program. And I went and spent a day of learning at each place, and at the end of those 2 days submitted my CV to both schools and never looked back. So 12 years later, here I am still doing the work in alternative ed. And that kind of work over 12 years has been in a behaviour school, which the kids called it, however the boss there called it, a changing your behaviour school, a special school for young people with autism. And the last 2 roles have been leadership roles in independent special assistant schools, where I've had the privilege of being able to design my own programs and innovate in the world of alternative ed with some amazing colleagues across 2 states now. So that's probably the short version, if that's the one you're interested in.
Amazing. Thank you, Kim. I just jotted down here as you were talking, the changing your behaviour school. I might dig in a little bit deeper in that as we move
I can't claim that. That was the boss.
Yeah. Alex over there in South Australia.
Hello. I also want to acknowledge I'm tuning in on Ghana land in the Adelaide Plains, and I also just want to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I have only been in the education space for about 6 years. I've been at Youth Inc. the whole time, but also because of my big belief in the holistic approach, have been working sort of in and out between the SAS schools and in some of the mainstream conventional schools. To further develop my understanding of what young people really want, what are their motivations, interests, and needs. My background actually isn't in teaching. I studied sociology and anthropology for a really long time. So I've got a real investment in the humanness and the identity and how we properly do justice by young people by really focusing on that during their learning journey. I'll go into a bit later. There's some other questions that ask this a bit better about what metaversity actually means. But I've got a really strong focus on skills for Industry 4.0 and really big on the co-creation between subject matter experts and young people who are held at the centre of these journeys. And I guess the other bit that really inspired me to start working in education was I was probably the absolute worst student my teachers had ever had the misfortune to work with. When I was a teenager, I was quite an angry young teenager. Never imagined myself working in this space, but once you found a way to really harness what I refer to as your divine rage, you can become quite an effective change maker. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Love that. Again, a couple of things that you just popped up there around certainly that metaversity question. I'm sure we'll delve a little bit deeper into that in Industry 4.0, but as well that last comment about the rage of harnessing that, as you've just said there, into different directions. So thank you, Alex. Sally, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sally Lasslet, and I'm the principal of Hester Hornbook Academy. I'm in Melbourne with Jen on the lands of the Wurundjeri people today. My journey to the school that I'm in has been from traditional mainstream education as a principal now to a principal of a special assistance school, or a flexi school as they're sometimes known. I think I have found my place. I know that I am in a place where wellbeing and learning can work collaboratively together, and that allows me to do great work as a leader in my school.
Yeah, amazing. And just for our audience as well, not unsimilar to Kim as well, multiple campuses, and you're soon to open a further campus.
Yeah, Jen, we've got 4 campuses currently, 480 students. We've got a campus in Sunshine, South Melbourne, Melbourne CBD, I've forgotten one, Paran. We've got a building happening in Werribee at the moment and further land purchase in Donnybrook in the north of Melbourne. So we know that young people need something different from traditional education, and we've got plenty of those young people in our school and on our wait list to join our new campuses.
Yeah. While I've got you there, Sally, I might ask for you just to tell us then a little bit more, dive a bit deeper into what it is about Hester Hornbook that is, you mentioned coming from traditional education. What are some of the pillars that are really quite distinct of those two organisations that you've worked in, and possibly a little bit more about who are the young people then? You mentioned there you've got a wait list, and I know from conversations we've had in the background that wait list is certainly growing.
Yeah, so look, I think that the pillar of our school is that it is healing orientated. We have a program called HOPE, which is the healing orientated program of education. And what we've done is rethought that trauma informed space. We are all trauma informed, but our school is a place of healing for young people who have experienced trauma, whether that be in the previous school that they're in or in their lives outside of school. Our young people are aged 15 to 25. In order to enrol in our school, they need to have been disengaged for a period of 10 weeks or more. And that's pretty easy when we look at the background in school of our students for them not to have been in school for 10 weeks. they come with a variety of different needs, social and emotional disability, neurodiversity. We've got a young parents program. We've got an engagement program for students who have been out for many years from education. And so it's any and all young people that want to feel success in education are welcome in our school.
Amazing, thank you. And Kim, not unsimilar, having just I've been up on the ground with you in Wollongong and your other two campuses for the last few days. Just tell us a bit about this space and possibly a little bit more about the young people that attend Novo.
Yeah, so we've got 3 campuses, soon to be 4, and about 80 students currently across those. And they're awesome. They are brave and funny and creative and incredibly insightful in a way that only people who've lived through challenge can be, which considering their age is awesome, but also concerning at times. We're located on the South Coast, so our largest campus and head office is in Wollongong, and then our other 2 campuses at the moment are in Nowra and Vincentia, for people who know the South Coast. And similar to Salad, we're a year 9 to 12 school for kids at risk of educational disengagement. We don't have a 10-week, but I was kind of noting that there going, perhaps we might think about adding those sorts of guidelines and things in, but any kind of young person who is either disengaged and currently still trying to attend or has not attended for some time tend to be our kids. Looking through an NCCD lens, about 98% of our kids at the moment qualify for disability funding, and starting to shift those mindsets in our teachers from, we're a place where we can keep our young people safe and help them to actually, we want to be experts in disability education in all of the forms of disability. We've got 62% of our kids that are requiring intensive support for acute mental health conditions, about 40% that are either diagnosed or imputed diagnoses for autism, which is a rapidly growing cohort of young people for us. About 15% who are requiring intensive behaviour support, 15% identifying as First Nations people, and 18% needing intensive attendance support for school refusal patterns, and almost all of our young people have impacted by various types of trauma. And this week, as we mentioned, we've had the pleasure of Jen and Nick's company of them come up to run some focus groups with our young people and help us as leaders to listen really deeply to the kids so we can design what our next steps are. And while we're yet to receive that data, I think we can safely say that our kids really strongly are indicating to us that they want to co-construct their own individual learning journeys with us. And they want those individual learning journeys to be shaped by their interests and talents. They really want to be challenged. We're hearing from them that, perhaps we're not giving them enough at this stage. And so the intellectual quality of our work is definitely some next steps that we're going to take. And they want to learn in the real world. And they want that school-based learning to then help them prepare for their futures. Those are the things that we're hearing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And slightly different kind of context when we head over there to South Australia. You think, I know when I visited a couple of years ago and you walk through those doors there right in the heart of the city, certainly doesn't look like, when we say traditional schooling, possibly that image we have of it. I'd love to even, Alex, as you were saying, you're fairly new there, even just your journey and your first thoughts, and then just a little bit about the space and the young people that attend, you think.
Yeah, so I think what I really love about it is, so we're on one of the most infamous streets in Adelaide City. It's called Hindley Street, and it is, we're actually smack bang in the middle of the nightclubbing district. I apologise if you can hear music in the background. There's a pizza shop and a club literally underneath me, and the noise is coming through a little bit. But what's workable about that is it's accessible for our young people. There's nothing pretentious about walking down this street and trying to access the building. And you come through those big double doors and you won't see a single classroom. So we've got this open plan studio schooling setup, and it's more a sanctuary than a learning space sometimes. It's a real safe haven for our young people where their identity and their unique motivations, interests, and needs are respected and tended to. They are 17 to 24 years old, and not dissimilar to what Kim and Sally have said. There's a number of preconditions that a lot of our young people experience, as well as they come from a lot of diverse backgrounds, but predominantly low SES and marginalised. And a lot of neurodivergent young people in our cohort, and each and every one of them is really brilliant and wonderful once the learning environment and the conditions are right. So it's real sort of proof that it's not the young person, it's the system and what we're providing young people that makes all the difference, and it's the mechanisms as to how they can fully tap into their potential, and that responsibility is on us working in education. I want to highlight, we've got these 3 core pillars of agency, identity, and direction, and the exploration of the interplay of those with what we call our transformative capacities. And there's currently 5 of those at the Central School. They are awareness, creativity, collaboration, adaptability, and leadership. So the focus is never on subjects or the subject matter within the projects. It is more about who you are and who you want to be, and not what. And we find that is really workable for the young people who attend here, that deep exploration of self, having connection to community, and being able to engage in learning in an individualized way that honors and respects the needs of our young people is where we're finding some real success.
Interesting. If earlier on in the conversation you talked about your own experience in being in school, and it's not one that's uncommon when I speak to educators, that often their own experience was one that was a little bit challenging in schools, and often find themselves surprised that they've ended up back in education. And to quote you, you talked about holding a lot of rage. Had you been a young person with the opportunity to attend, be it Youth Inc. or Hester Hornbrook or even Novo, quite a hypothetical question, so please just it might be humor me on it, but where do you think the experience might have been different for you?
So I want to give you a piece of information that I don't often bring up, because I don't want to be nasty to my high school, because they really tried, but and they did offer me an opportunity to do a vet course while I was there. So that was with Music SA, and it was a Certificate 3 in Band Management and Marketing. And it was a real world project-based subject that would allow me just enough SACE credits to scrape through while I failed and stumbled my way through the conventional system. So the same year that I graduated, and all the teachers that I had at the time didn't believe that I would pass. And I just sort of scraped through. In the vet course, that was this sort of project-based model, I received an award for the most outstanding student in that cohort. And as a 17, 18-year-old graduating, that presented to me these 2 ideas of, do I need to fit the education, or does it need to fit me? And then you fast forward to my early 20s when I started this work with Youth Inc., and you can absolutely see confirmation of that thought. It's about the space and what we're providing to these young people. I think with harnessing rage, like when you're working with young people with quite traumatic backgrounds, it's essential to be providing the vessels for them to explore how they harness and use that in a way that is constructive and not self-destructive. And it's far easier said than done. But to give like a key example, we run a program here that was co-created by myself and my colleague Nia, called Ideas to Unf the World, and is quite literally about young people taking all the things they hate and all the ways the world has done them dirty and channeling it into a solution for those problems. So when you can equip the resources and the mentors and other elements of capital required for a young person to be able to find out some of those things for themselves, it puts the power back in their hands, and it's a mechanism for them to channel that rage into something extraordinary.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing, and that personal story as well. Sally, there was something earlier that you said around having moved from traditional education, and to quote you as well, you found your place. I'd love to push a little bit deeper on this. What does that mean for you as a leader in a school, as a principal, having found your place?
Jen, I came from a school on the outskirts of Melbourne, and it was a school community that had significant mental health challenges, significant wellbeing challenges, significant trauma and unemployment. And it was really my job there as the leader to try to get those kids to school. And as a leader in a mainstream school, you worry about uniform, you worry about sock colour, you worry about blazers. But really, our kids just needed wellbeing supports. And I suppose I got to about my seventh year there. And when the psychs told me they had closed their wait list for 15 to 24-year-olds, couldn't even put kid on a wait list. That's kind of my point where I went, that's it, I can't do this anymore. If I can't bring supports into a community that needs them, I can no longer ask students to wear blazers and white socks instead of black socks. It's time for me to move to something different. After a journey somewhere else, but then to Hester Hornbrook, I've really found a place where wellbeing is considered first. And it's understood that every single young person comes with a different story, and every single young person needs something different from us before they arrive into the door, into our school to complete any work. And if they're not ready to learn, we can't push them to learn. We need to figure out what's gone on that they're not ready to learn, and we need to sort through those simple issues. For us might be food, clothing, shelter. It might be a visit to the dentist. It might be to get some glasses. There's so many barriers for young people to education. And for us, it's about removing that barrier and then ensuring that they come to a place of safety, respectful and productive. And there are 3 core behaviours. We don't have values. We have core behaviours in our school. And it is about safe, respectful and productive. And of course, they've got to feel safe first before they can move to the productive, and they've got to have those respectful relationships and those solid relationships with the adults in order to be productive and to see educational success. So I suppose, Jen, I've ended up in a place that I couldn't achieve before in my previous school with young people, like Kim said, who are amazing, and how they bounce back every day to even come to school amazes me. But they are certainly wanting education. They're not there because they have to be there. They're there because they want to be there. And really, as the leader, it's my job to enable them to have access to quality education.
Absolutely. And there was a point you just mentioned then of access to food, just barriers that have been preventative for some young people. And certainly our friendship goes back a couple of years. I remember that first visit to the campus out in Paran and walking into the building, and it's certainly just soft signaling as a young person maybe re-entering education after a period of time. It doesn't actually look like a school. It's intentional in the design. Do you want to tell just a little bit?
Yeah, so each of our campuses is healing orientated. The idea is that a young person feels like they're walking into a community where they are safe and respected. We become, for many of our kids, their family and their place where they stay for a really long period of time. They don't want to leave us at the end. And so in some ways that's lovely, but in some ways that's really difficult. So our purpose fit out at Sunshine does not look like a school, and that's intentional. There are no corridors. There are lots of open spaces for students to come in and out of the traditional classroom space. The colours are, trauma-informed colours. They don't need to bring anything with them except for themselves and often their mobile phone that might need to be charged. But everything that they need for learning and wellbeing is there in that place for them all day. Food, we have a school chef, which I know that some of our other SAS schools that have as well, because we know that if you're hungry, then you're not ready to learn, you can't learn. And our staff work on housing security as well, because again, if your brain is around where am I going to sleep tonight, then you're absolutely not going to be ready for learning. And if I think back to my previous school, Jen, that was a lot of my young people. They didn't know where they were going to sleep that night, but we were forcing them to sit in the classroom. And I laugh about it now because it's ridiculous, isn't it? We forced them to sit in a classroom in a row and to concentrate and listen to the teacher. And we know that the young brain can't do that with all of those other things going on for them.
Yeah, and I've been out to that the campus there at the city campus, and I'm trying to think. Was it 5 years that you'd been over? What was the celebration I went to, Sally?
South Melbourne.
Yeah,
opening of our South Melbourne campus. So just to give you a bit of an insight into need in in schooling done differently. We had a campus at South Melbourne that we've opened at the start of this year. Our business plan was to have 60 students in that by the end of the year. It's full at 120, and it was full by the end of Michael, my assistant principal, is sitting here. He might tell me I've got the wrong date, but it was absolutely full by midway through the year.
I just want to extend on one last question with this, and then Kim, I'd love to move over to exploring a little bit more with Novo. But how did the young people find your space for that growth in such a short period of time? What's happening out there?
So we've done lots of marketing and networking and promotion, and we like to talk ourselves up. We like to tell everyone how good we are. And I think that has really just spread around our community. I've obviously used all of my networks within the Department of Ed to ensure that schools know who we are. I have an assistant principal who is our wellbeing and inclusion principal. She's not from an education background, so she uses her social work background. So really now our students are coming from anywhere and everywhere. We now have parents seeking us out to provide assistance when they've got a young person who they can't get to school. We've got a parent that rang us the other day who's got a 5-year-old, and they wanted to know if they could put them on the wait list. So that's a long wait list of 10 years, but we've certainly done lots of work in ensuring that people know that we are a school, that we do things differently, but there's still good quality education available. And something that we pride ourselves on is not being the flexi school that's out the back where the kids are hidden. We are proud of our young people, and they deserve the best.
Yeah, and actually, like, your locations are right there, and possibly the same with you. You think right in the heart of the space there in Paran or in South Melbourne, bright colours outside. You know that it's a place of young people, very much so. Kim, I'm going to move across. I would love to hear, we were talking before about possibly any kind of specific programs that really just enable your students to thrive there at Novo. And if there was anything you'd like to share, possibly a program with our audience today.
Yeah, I mean, look, hard act to follow, right? Sal and the team at Hornbrook have long been some of my heroes in this work. And we have, Sal and I were just catching up beforehand that we've crossed over previously in the work, but kudos to you guys. And certainly we at Novo at the moment are looking to you guys, and to you guys at you think too, Alex, because we're young in this work. You know, we've been around for some time, but originally our structures were sort of built on a mini mainstream model of let's wrap around the kids and get some trauma sensitive practice and just have smaller groups and things. And we're evolving. You know, Monique, my colleague who's here, who's the other half of my work. It's weird that we're not presenting together, Monique, because we do so much of this. We do half each. Yeah, we're building the ship as we're sailing it at Novo at the moment. But really our things are around wellbeing for learning, just as Sal was speaking about, and Alex too, and then learning for wellbeing, and that those two reciprocal things work. So yeah, I'm happy to share a couple of things if everybody's interested. Monique and I've been really drilling down into the conceptual frameworks, because one of the things that we found was that our staff were having difficulty imagining how all of the big rocks fit together. So we're a school that's underpinned by self-determination theory, and we really are also pushing the buttons with our staff and our young people around safety and also achievement of success, that we don't want to be one of those flexi schools also that hangs out the back and just keeps young people safe and okay, that really we are about striving for their independent success. So this is Monique's, and Monique, if you want to jump in and have a chat about it, please do. But Monique and her team are really focused on developing independent regulation skills in our young people, their ability to have healthy relationships and resilience. And they do this by, you can read, and because we're then pointed at safety, self-determination and success. And then that is, my slides aren't moving, in my team, in terms of teaching and learning, that we took the decision a few years back now to move away from HSC in New South Wales and Rosa, because it wasn't meeting the needs of our young people, and so few young people were able to achieve. And so we've adopted registration only status now with NESA. And so we do teach the same curriculum outcomes are on the national curriculum, same as everybody else, but we do it through what we call the vehicle of a thing called ASDAN, which my predecessor, Andrea Garner, was responsible for bringing in. And ASDAN is a UK system of micro-credentialing curriculum, so that instead of like HSC, where you have to build all of the pieces, and if you make a mistake in one particular piece or don't achieve in one particular area, you don't get the big award at the end. Micro-credentialing actually enables us to award or credit all of the learning that our young people do. Couple of tricky points for our teaching teams at the moment in how we blend the two of those together, but we're well on the journey of using our micro-credentialing for the learning that we're doing anyway. Our pedagogy has been a lot of our work in the last 12 months between Monique and I around getting the big rocks in place. You know, our relationship practice, which Sally was talking about, is really important. Trauma sensitive practice sits at the heart of our model, and this year we have retrained all staff in BSEM. And also positive behaviour support and nuancing positive behaviour support for a school about self-determination, which is really quite interesting. But for the reason that we teach that way is, of course, the same reasons as the wellbeing works. Stop sharing my screen and see whether you've got any further questions. I don't want to take up all the time, but I've got some more things around ASDAN if people are interested, because I know that's one thing that is unique to us that perhaps doesn't exist else, but I'll let you lead it, Jen.
Yeah, amazing. And I think that earlier point of coming in together, one of the intentions of bringing the three of you together is just really creating that awareness and those connections. And I do encourage anyone that's on the call today, there's a couple of links there in the background of how to connect with these schools, and I know that Sally extended this before, and I'm sure it's the same out there at YouthInc and at Novo, that invitation to actually go out there and visit those campuses when you're on the ground. And the more we can share and learn from each other on some of these amazing practices that we're seeing in our schools, the better the outcomes for our young people. And I am, though, because I am conscious of time, and I would be loath to not ask this question of you, Alex, I would love to learn more as the project lead of the Metaversity. What is it?
Thank you, Jen. As I alluded to before, real strong focus on the fourth industrial revolution, as the coined term for it is, and looking at, well, what are the skills that young people need to be able to thrive in this epoch, and how do we do educational justice by young people to ensure that the world they're inheriting from us is something worth inheriting and they're able to navigate that world. Metaversity was sprung from, there's a number of moving parts, but yeah, for over 25 years of my life, I've been an avid video gamer. That mixed with my background in social science, and then looking at global trends and futuring and innovation in education all came together to go, we need another iteration of YouthInc called the Metaversity. It is a dual world new school design, meaning it exists in the physical world and in the digital landscape. But essentially, I came up with it properly on a plane from Dubai to Melbourne last year. I had was afforded a unique opportunity to visit the World Economic Forum, quite an unexpected one, and they sort of shared that they were building a global collaboration village, which is a metaverse of their own. That is equal parts exciting and frightening, because it allows the most powerful people on the planet to do business 1,000 times more effectively, without needing to fly in and have 1 week to do Davos. But the trickle or ripple effect of that on everybody else on the planet is colossal. And when I look at the young people we work with who are already at a disadvantage, and we're working overtime to try and ensure they've got equal opportunity and access to things, when we look at tech acquisition and Industry 4.0, it's driving a bigger gap between where they're already at and everybody else. So it's a new school design where you don't geographically need to be able to get there, because it exists in the metaverse, and it is open 24/7 as the digital iteration of the sanctuaries, educational sanctuaries we all work across. It's heavily gamified, and I love that. I think, Kim, you brought up self-determination theory. Strong salute to that, so that young people have control over their own journey through this gamified digital interface. It's giving them back their power that for a lot of them has been taken from them most of their lives. And it's equipping them with the digital literacy, the familiarity with the tech, and a number of other things that I think it's going to change the playing field and the cards that life has dealt these young people, because they've got the access and the resources in a very different brand new learning model that I haven't found anything like it yet. But yeah, they are the best placed people, having lived through adversity, to be the next generation of change makers, and this is a vessel for them to properly tap into that potential.
Amazing. Alex, as you're sharing there, I'm thinking of an early comment I said as we did the introduction, that I hope our listeners here and our audience today walk away with more questions than answers. And I know for myself personally, I'm sitting here with so many questions, and yet an eye on the time as well. I'm recognizing we are in our last, in the wind down of the last 10 minutes. That it just sounds amazing. I'm wondering if there's anything, if you have any links that you could share with us, because I know that this will have raised a few questions with our audience, and further exploration will be on the cards for sure.
Yeah, I currently don't. So just for reference, its first iteration opens February 2024. There's nothing publicly on websites, but I am very open to people reaching out to me directly if they'd like to know more.
I'm just scheduling you in for our webinar early 2024. Fantastic. And we could possibly all get our Oculus glasses out and meet in the MetaCity for that one. Is that right?
I'll see you in the metaverse, yes.
Great. Love it. Fantastic. Wow. I'm just having a look at a couple of questions here. Cassandra's just popped in the chat here. If you could talk about what activities you would do with a group of ideas to unfix the world. I'm a little lost in the question. Hang on a second. I might just, while I'm just getting my head around the question, what I would
Alex, it's your program. So that Unf the World program that you run. Yeah, yep. I can jump in and
what's
translate.
A mistake, but over to you, Alex.
Sorry, was the question about a specific part of the program, or just more about
what were the activities? Yeah, talk us through how that program's structured, and what was there a sense of risk in opening that can of worms with the young people that you were working with as well?
Yeah, so just conscious of time, that one I'll send some resources if people want to deep dive a bit further, but it's essentially you kick off with actually no. If you want to know about it, there's a book called Be More Pirate by a man called Sam Conniff, and it is about how pirates were the first inventors of welfare systems, and were actually geniuses when you put the criminal elements aside. It sprung from being a little bit more pirate and encouraging that in young people, and then woven into project-based learning, where they make shit lists of everything they hate, and over a period of 10 weeks to 20 weeks, it's then rolled out as a there's a big launch for their idea, and how it is absolutely going to unfuck the world. Unfuck the World Day started in LA. If you Google it, happens once a year, and we try and either kick off on that date or finish on that date. But it's a pretty cool, pretty radical movement.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. And sorry, Cassandra, I got a little lost in the word. I didn't realize it was another word underneath. So excellent. But I'm going to ask my three people, as we bring this to an end, a piece of kind of advice. If we've got a huge audience out here today, if you could give them a piece of advice of one kind of tangible action to take back into their classrooms that would make a difference in the lives of young people, really that embrace that idea of empowering young people in their own education, what would it be? So one piece of advice, and I'm just looking at the nods. I've got one from Kim, so I might go from Kim. I'll put you on the floor first.
Yeah, listen deeply to your young people, because they want to be agents of, and they want to co-construct it with you. So seek their feedback and input, and then design all your structures around their needs. Identify what the barriers are, move as many of them out of the way as you can, and for the rest, build their capacity to overcome the things that they need to that you can't shift.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Sally.
I think mine comes for anyone who's a leader or future leader, and that is about having the courage to do things differently. It's okay to give something a go and to reflect on it and think, well, that wasn't so great, and have a go at another thing, as long as it's what the young people that you're working with need. I'll stop there, Jen.
Thank you so much, Sally. And Alex.
I was going to say the same thing as Kim, that deep listening bit is really, really crucial. But I think the one I want to leave everyone with is having unlimited belief. So too often what I see in educators or people working in and around that space is that person what I'll provide them with is something where they can maybe get up to the lid is here, and I decide that as their facilitator or their educator. If you have it unlimited, I can assure you they will surpass your expectations. But the second you've put a lid on them, you've decided where their potential ends. So it's limitless belief is what I'd love to leave you with.
Well, thank you so much. And just to close it out today, and for anyone in the audience as well, all of the links are being put in the chat, but they will also be included in a follow-up email with a link to this recording. And so to bring us to a close, you mentioned one of my favorite books just before, Alex, in Be More Pirate. Fantastic book. And Sam is amazing. If you've ever heard Sam speak, he is eclectic, wonderful, energetic, passionate about the work he does. But to share with us as an audience a recommendation of either a podcast or a book that you've been reading or listening to that, again, will leave our people listening today with more questions than possibly answers. Sally, have you got a recommendation for us?
I do, and I'm not sure. Oh, I think my blurry screen is not helping. But certainly we've been doing some work today with Adriano De Prato, who is one of the game changers. And Adriano has a book called Game Changers, but also a podcast as well. So shout out to Adriano and Phil Cummins, who have that book and podcast. And they are leading the fore of changing the way that we do education.
Thank you so much. Kim.
I was nodding along to Sally and then forgot that I was muted. I have autism and ADHD, and so can't do one thing at a time. So the best I can do for you today is I'm kind of reading three things at once. I'm in Divergent Mind, which is about a paradigm shifting study of neurodivergent women, which I highly recommend. I'm doing Fullen's Nuance at the minute, and Kirsten Ferguson's Head and Heart, The Art of Modern Leadership are the three that are midway that I can recommend.
Thank you so much. Alex.
I too, Kim, have autism and ADHD, so I hope no one finds this too weird, but I actually want to recommend a video game instead of a book or a podcast. It's called BioShock. I first played it when I was 15, and it was how I understood systems, society, and social justice. I don't want to ruin it for you. I'd encourage you to Google what it's about, but not too much, because there is a colossal twist in it that will rock your world. But it is about recreating a society where citizens of this new society are limited only by their own creativity. And it's been a pivotal piece of my journey to have played and understood it to the depths that I did.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Now, before you just run, guests, I'm just, before we officially bring it to a close, next week, this time at just after this time, 4:30 this time. No, let's try this again. Next Thursday at 4:30, we are running a Q&A on our flagship program, Activate. So I've got all the educators in the room. It's been a question that's been coming up quite a bit around how we can embed this an enterprising curriculum in our schools to really empower our students on a journey of discovery and really unleashing their ideas and passions into really innovative ideas that make our world a better place. So if you're curious to find out how you might be able to bring this program to your school and support your students, just jump on and register a spot. I'm looking over, there we are. It's already in the chat, ready to go. And I'll also include that link in our follow-up email. Sally, Kim, and Alex, again, it's one of those conversations that I feel we could sit here all evening and continue the conversation. Such rich contributions, and thank you so much for your personal stories and the stories of your own journeys and your schools, and joining us for this afternoon. Truly appreciative of your time. To all of our audience members that have joined today, thank you so much as well for just making the time to be with us on this live learning session. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to seeing you again for our next live learning session, which has a little bit of a twist. It's in October, and we'll be heading over to Cambodia to Liger Leadership Academy. This is a school that really embeds PBL as in place, project, and problem-based learning through the entire curriculum. That'll be a fascinating journey, and we'll speak to some students and to staff at Liger Leadership Academy. Not an international school. All of the students are from places across Cambodia and come into Phnom Penh to do their study. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening, and we will touch base soon.